Yesterday we looked at transformations. Specifically, we looked at reflections. And again, reflection is where it's flipping from on one side of the axis or the other, depending on which one you're flipping across. It looks different in how it's positioned. What we're going to look at today is called a translation, and that's going to look exactly the same. Basically, it's just moved. So if you guys can go ahead and open up your vocab section of your notes to start with, we are going to define translation first. So a translation is a transformation where a figure is slid from one position to another without being turned. It's also called a slide. And the reason why it's called a slide is, think about if you go down a slide at the park, you sit down, and when you're at the bottom of the slide, you just moved down the slide. You didn't change shape, you didn't change size, you didn't flip or anything. You stayed exactly the same, just moved where you were on the slide. So a transformation where a figure is slid from one position to another without being turned. It's also called a slide. If you guys need to pause the lesson here to help you guys get the vocab word written down, go ahead and do so. And when you're ready, go ahead and press play. Yesterday we listed characteristics of a reflection. Similarly, we're going to do the same thing for translation. You'll notice some of these characteristics are similar to reflection, but most of them are different. To start with, the image is the same shape and size as the original figure. Later this school year, we're going to learn about some transformations where the shape will change size. But the ones that we're taking a look at today for our translation, they're going to be the exact same shape, exact same size. That's going to be a really good check for you to make sure that you did it correctly, because if it looks bigger, it looks smaller, doesn't look like a triangle, doesn't look like a rectangle anymore, you did something wrong. So that's going to be a nice check for us. The orientation is the same as the original figure. So when you look at the shape, it literally is going to look like it just moved somewhere else on the coordinate plane. It's not going to look like it's flipped or rotated or anything. It will look like you just pasted it someplace else on the coordinate plane. So it's going to be the same orientation as the original one. And this is also a really important thing. Every point in the original figure is moved the same distance and in the same direction. So I'm not going to take point A, move it one direction, and then take point B and move it a completely different direction. All points have to move the same way. It's kind of like if someone was holding both of your hands, they need to pull you in the same direction. They can't pull you in opposite directions because chances are you're going to hurt yourself. So they would have to pull you in the same direction. Before we start taking a look at examples and actually start translating some of our figures, I do need someone to pass out the first strip of graphs for us. Go ahead and glue those in. Once everyone's set, go ahead and press play on the lesson again, and we'll start taking a look at some examples. Alright, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is translating the figures. There are two ways that you can actually have the directions or the rules written. One way is where they write out the rules, exactly how you do them. So this one says 3 units to the right, 2 units up. And again, we do that to all 3 points for our figure, because this is a triangle. It does not matter which point you start with. I just tend to start in the upper left corner, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to start with T, and the directions say 3 units to the right, 2 units up. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, then go up 2. So 1, 2. So T prime is going to end right here. And remember, we label them, putting the little prime next to it, that apostrophe. And then we're also going to label at the bottom what T prime actually is. So T prime falls at -2, 1. Now again, we have to do that for every point in this shape. So I'm going to move to E. I'm going to start where E is. And again, move 3 spots to the right, 1, 2, 3, up 2. So then E prime falls at 2, 1 then. Still again have to do that for all the letters, so now we're going to do this for I. Same thing for I, 3 units to the right, 2 up. So 1, 2, 3, up 2. Now it does kind of fall on the old figure, which is perfectly fine. You'll find that happens sometimes. But it's still in a different position. So we have I prime, and I prime falls at -2, -1. Now I'm going to connect the dots here. And you'll notice, again with my rough sketch, that the shape looks exactly the same. It's in the same position. It's just moved where it is on the graph. So that's just kind of a nice little check to know that you probably did it correctly. You probably moved it correctly because it looks the same. It's in the same orientation. It's just in a different position on the graph. Let's take a look at another one. This one, now we're looking at a 4-sided figure, which is called a quadrilateral. So same thing, we just have to do it now to 4 sides. So let's take a look. This rule says 4 units to the left, 1 unit up. In all honesty, what students make a mistake with on this sometimes is that they move in the wrong direction. So just be careful you're doing your lefts and rights correctly. That's usually the only mistake students will make. So I'm going to start with X, 4 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. And again, make sure you're doing all the movements with it. Some students will forget to go that 1 unit up. So X prime is here. So X prime is at -2, 1. G, 4 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. So we have G prime. Careful labeling this one. Starting at 0, 0, we don't go left or right, we go straight up. So this one is at 0, 1. Moving to Q, again, you can do these in any order. It does not matter at all. So Q, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. So Q prime falls at -2, -1. Last but not least, we have to do U. 4 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then go up your 1 unit. So U prime falls here. Checking to see the coordinate plane for that, or ordered pair, I'm sorry. So we go back 1, -1, and then down 1, 2, 3. So U prime is at -1, -3. Now we can connect our dots to make our shape, and it should look pretty close to the same. If you would like to use a ruler, you are more than welcome to do so. The app that I'm doing doesn't allow me to use a ruler, so mine are kind of just rough sketches of them. Okay? But you can still get the idea. Same shape, same size. This pointy part of the U is still pointing down on both of them, so it hasn't rotated or flipped or anything. It looks exactly the same. It's just moved. So it was here. All we did was slide it to a different spot on the graph. Now there's another way that we can see a rule, and this is how it's written most often, where we have it in ordered pair notation, also called coordinate notation. Basically, this rule does the exact same thing as what we just had. The only thing with this is instead of saying 4 units right, 2 units up, is it puts it in coordinate notation. Remember, X is always our left or right movement. If we think about a minus, what did we talk about earlier this year? A minus means we move to the left, so this means we go to the left 1. Y is our up or down movement, so this is going to tell us how we move up or down. If we're adding 0, do we move? Nope. So the only thing we're doing is we're moving left 0. And just to kind of help here, I'm just going to put up 0 as a notation so you know that 0 means you don't go anywhere and that the Y means how you're moving up or down. So let's go ahead and move those points then. So W, 1 spot to the left. So it starts there. So W prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4, -5, up 2, so -5, 2. What I'm doing here, I will expect you to do in your homework because I'm going to be looking to make sure you have it on the coordinate plane correctly and to make sure you're labeling your points correctly as you're listing them here. It gives you just additional practice with naming ordered pairs, which we practice on Wednesday. G, 1 spot to the left. So G prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4, -5, 0. Oops, I forgot to label this one. E again, 1 spot to the left. There's E prime. And E prime is at -1, 1, 2, 3. Drawing in, it should look like a triangle again, just shifted backwards. And now that I switched markers, you can see it's probably a little bit easier for you to see that it is the same shape, same size, just shifted where it is on the coordinate plane. Let's take a look at another example. This one here, again, it's written in coordinate notation. This, again, is how you'll see it most often. I wanted to give you the first two as an example to get you started with it, to help you realize that all that this ends, the rule is it's telling you how you're going to move. So for this first one, X tells us our left or right movement. +3 means we go to the right 3. Y is our up or down movement. Because it's a negative, we're going down 2. Here's what I'd like you guys to do now. I want you guys to go ahead and try to translate this figure now that we have the rule written out. You're going to take every point in this quadrilateral, you're going to move them to the right 3 spots and down 2. Okay? Put your new image here. Make sure that you are writing each ordered pair along the side here. When everyone's done, go ahead and press play. See if we come up with the same thing. All right, when you're all done, here's what you should have ended up with. Your figure would have shifted to the right and down a little bit. Again, it looks almost identical to what it was here. It won't be perfect because we have human error, and I'm not using a ruler to make straight lines. But you can see the same general shape, same orientation. And you should have the following ordered pairs: Y prime at 0, 1. M prime 0, 0, Q prime at 1, -2, and T prime at 3, -2. So this is going to be what the first part of your homework assignment is. The second part is going to be where you guys are now, you're given this, and you're going to write the rule. So what I need now is I need the second set of graphs to be passed out. Go ahead and glue those in. When everyone's done gluing them in, if you can return the glue sticks as well. And once that is all taken care of, then let's take a look at writing a rule to describe each of these translations. So when everyone's ready, go ahead and press play, and we'll take a look at them. All right, now that everyone's ready, we're going to take a look at writing a rule for these. I would say the biggest mistake that students make is they start with the wrong shape. If we take a look, these are both triangles, but one is the original figure, one is the image. Between yesterday and today, every image that we created, because everything we've been doing has been the image so far, has had these little apostrophes on here. So this means this is the image. So when we are writing our rule, we always want to start with the original, and we go to the image. Now, one of the glorious things about this is unlike when we create the image, we have to do it for every single point. With these, because all of these points should have been moved the same number of times, we don't have to do it for every single one. We're going to pick one point here, and we're going to figure out what did we do to get to its image. So I'm just going to pick point P because it's on the very bottom. It stands out to me. It does not matter which point you choose. Some will do F, some will do C. Guess what? We're all going to come up with the same answer. So let's start with P. Here's our original. Luckily mine are two different colors, but make sure you're going from the one that does not have the apostrophe. So here's P. What did we do to get to the image with the prime? We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots to the right. So I'm going to write that. I'm just going to write that we went 6 to the right. We didn't go up or down at all, so we don't need to write anything for that. That is a rule, but the rule that we are going to be writing is in coordinate notation. So when we write our coordinates, we always put X first because we deal with X when we're naming a point. And because we went to the right, we're going to do a positive 6, comma, then we always address our Y value. We did not move up or down at all, so we're going to put plus 0 at the end. This is a perfectly fine way to write your coordinate notation for your rule. I will have some students that will write it this way, which means exactly the same because that Y just means that you stay exactly where you are. There's nothing being added at the end. Both of them are the same. This is how I see most students writing it, but I would take this as well. Let's move down to the next one. Again, we have a four-sided figure. Does not matter which point we choose to start with. I just usually pick one that stands out to me the most. For me, U is what's standing out for me here. So I'm going to be looking at those two. Remember, we always go from the original to the image. So we start with the original letter. That'll be the one without the prime. And we move to the one with the prime. So for this one, we are going up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to make a note here. All we did was go up 4. So for my coordinate notation, this time we didn't move left or right, and I have to start with X first. So I'm going to do X plus 0, comma, then put in my Y movement. So Y plus 4. Again, that's what most students will do. You could also do this. Both are perfectly fine, but this is what most students will put for an answer on their homework, a test, or quiz. Okay? Taking a look at another one. Again, you pick which point you want to start with. Does not matter. I pick one that usually stands out. Like to me, there's like a lot of mumble jumble happening here. So I would avoid this and I would pick to work with D, maybe I. But I think D is going to be our easiest. So that's the one that I'm going to work with. Does it matter which one you use? No. Whichever one you think looks easiest. Remember, we always go from the original to the prime or the image. My original is going to be without the apostrophe, moving towards the one that does. Again, students overall do a nice job with this. They just start with the wrong one. So maybe make sure you start with the original, move to the image. So in this one, let's always talk about our left to right movement first. We want to talk about our movement to get to the elevator, then how we move up and down. So I go 1, 2, 3 to the right. And then I go down 1, 2, 3. So we've not jotted down some notes as far as like how it moved. Now it's coordinate notation. X we went to the right, so plus 3, comma. Then we went down for our y, so that tells us we have to minus 3. And again, coordinate notation has to be written in this way. It has to be x first and then y. On your homework, if you have them switched, I will be marking it wrong because coordinate notation, x always comes first. And again, think about what we talked about a few days ago. Alphabetical order. X comes before y. So it has to come first in your ordered pairs. One last one. I want you guys to go ahead and try this one. Once most people are done, go ahead and press play. See if our answers match and help each other out if they don't. All right, when you're all done, hopefully you noticed you went from L to L prime, whichever letter you picked, and you realize that you went to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, then up 2. So your coordinate notation rule would be x minus 4, y plus 2. That's what I'd be looking for an answer. All right, you guys have the rest of the time to work on the translations worksheet. Make sure you're watching for the directions as far as when you need to be actually translating and other times when you're putting the rule in. And then just an FYI, I will be back on Monday. Monday I'll be able to answer any questions you have with this worksheet if you struggled with this lesson. But Monday we'll have a review day. Tuesday we'll have a quiz over basically graphing in 4 quadrants and our reflections and our translations. Then a review day, and then Chapter 2 test is on Thursday. So that's kind of where we're getting to. Have a great rest of your day and have a wonderful weekend.